What if millions didn't die because of nature, but because of policy? What if some of the worst mass deaths in history weren't called genocide, simply because the winners controlled the narrative? You've heard of the rise of the British Empire, its power, its influence, its civilizing mission. But buried beneath that story is another one. Before we dive into the main story, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell notification button for more interesting video like this. A story of starvation, of mass detention camps, of shootings with no warning. From the streets of India, to the villages of Kenya, to the fields of Ireland. Millions died, not always by bullets, but by decisions. And here's the most unsettling part. Many of these events were documented, then quietly hidden. So the question is, were these tragedies accidents? Or something far more deliberate? When we think of genocide, we often imagine immediate violence, war, weapons, destruction. But history reveals another form. Slow violence, silent policies, deadly neglect. And few empires mastered it like the British. The Bengal Famine of 1943, when food existed, but people starved. In 1943, Bengal faced catastrophe. Up to 3 million people died. But this wasn't a simple famine. Food was still being produced. Rice still existed. So why did millions die? Under Winston Churchill, wartime policies prioritized British troops and European stockpiles over Indian civilians. Grain was diverted. Imports were restricted. Shipping was controlled. Even as people starved in the streets, food was being moved elsewhere. Eyewitnesses described children too weak to cry. Entire families disappearing overnight. And when pleas for help reached London, they were delayed, dismissed, or denied. This wasn't just tragedy. It was policy meeting indifference. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre, a message written in blood. In 1919, thousands gathered peacefully in Amritsar. No weapons. No warning. Then came the fire. British troops blocked the exits and opened fire into the crowd. Hundreds were killed instantly. Possibly over 1,000. People jumped into wells to escape bullets. Others were trampled trying to flee. The purpose wasn't just control. It was a message. Resistance would be crushed, publicly, brutally, and without apology. The Mau Mau uprising, the camps they tried to erase. In 1950s Kenya, resistance grew against colonial land seizures. Britain responded with mass detention. Over 100,000 Kenyans were placed in camps. What happened inside remained hidden for decades. Survivors later described torture, forced labor, starvation, executions. For years, the British government denied it. Then, in a shocking twist, thousands of secret files were discovered, exposing what had been buried. History hadn't just forgotten. It had been edited. The Second Boer War, the birth of modern camps. Before the world associated concentration camps with later regimes, Britain used them. During the Boer War, civilians, mostly women and children, were detained in camps. Conditions were horrific. Disease spread rapidly. Over 26,000 people died. This wasn't collateral damage. It was a strategy. Break the population to break the resistance. The Great Famine, starvation in a land of exports. Ireland was starving, yet ships filled with food continued to leave its ports. Over 1 million died. Millions more emigrated. Relief existed, but it was limited, bureaucratic, and often tied to harsh conditions. The debate continues today. Was it neglect, or something closer to intentional destruction? The outcome was irreversible. Across continents, a pattern emerges. Resources existed, but were redirected. Crises happened, but responses were delayed. Violence occurred, but was justified as order. And afterward, the language changed. Famine. Conflict. Emergency. Words that soften reality. Because empires don't just control land, they control memory. But here's where it gets even darker. Some of these events only came to light decades later. Because the records were hidden. Files destroyed. Testimonies ignored. Stories buried. So ask yourself, If this much was uncovered, how much is still missing? And more importantly, what other parts of history were rewritten before you ever learned them? For more videos like this, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.